Hey everybody, it's Mr. Bliss. This video is about the digestive system. If you have not watched the previous series of videos on macromolecules, I advise you stop right now and go back and watch those first. We're going to be referring to macromolecules quite a lot in this video. Our future videos are going to be about the circulatory system and respiratory system in an effort to lead up to cell respiration, which is going to integrate all of these things together. So be patient, look out for those. So we have the digestive system rather, and what we're going to do here is we're going to think about the way that the body is shaped. If I said that when you ate food, it went into your body, you would probably be like, yeah, that makes sense. But actually, I'm going to challenge that assumption, and I'm going to tell you that your body is roughly donut shaped. If I said that the middle of this donut is not the whole of the donut, like in this left picture, but actually it's like the right picture where the inside of the donut is actually into the cakey center. That is the inside of the donut, and everything else just kind of passes through it. That is what our digestive system is like. So here's a really rough picture of the digestive system here. And if you think of yourself as relatively donut shaped, that food is going to pass, here I'll do a little nice pink highlight here. That food is going to pass all the way through the inside of the body and then out. The waste is going to come out. But the point of the digestive system is that along the way, nutrients are going to come through that central tract and enter into the body, actually enter into the body. And those are going to be your nutrients. Okay, that's what the whole point of the digestive system is. It's to obtain these nutrients into the body and integrate them. So on the right side, we have some examples of these nutrients that we're going to intake. We have carbohydrates, we have lipids, we have fats, and proteins. So let's say that you ate, I don't know, a donut. That donut is going to be full of sugars like these carbohydrates and also starches, polysaccharides. You're also going to have fat from, the butter, oil, that sort of thing that goes into making donuts. Maybe not so much protein, but I don't know. Let's say it was a donut with chicken. I don't know. These are sort of the building blocks that you need to build new cells, repair cells, grow, that sort of thing. So there are actually going to be 5 stages in the digestive system. There's ingestion, which is eating food. Digestion, which is breaking that food down into the nutrients that you're going to absorb in the next step. Then you have the physical act of absorption, where you're taking those nutrients and vitamins and things into the body. You have assimilation, where those nutrients become part of new cells. And then you have egestion, or excretion, that's getting rid of the waste products. This video is going to focus on mostly digestion and absorption and egestion, but we will mention ingestion and assimilation too because it's part of the same process. So here is a fairly rough diagram of the digestive system. We're going to refer back to this quite a lot because, as it turns out, drawing the digestive system is complicated. So this is from WikiCommons. And it's labeled, so we have all of the parts here, and we'll refer to them as we go. So let's skip this for now. That first process that we talked about is ingestion. So that's physically taking food into the body, and that the organs that are going to be useful in that step are simply in the mouth. Okay, so you have your mouth, you have your teeth and tongue, and that is very straightforward. But almost immediately, you're going to get into the second stage of digestion of the digestive system, which is digestion. So the organs responsible there, you have your teeth, your tongue, salivary glands, stomach, and then later on you have your pancreas and this thing called the duodenum. That's a lot to just kind of spit out like that. So we're going to follow along with the diagram. So let's go back up here. All right, so at the beginning, you have your ingestion happening here at the mouth. Let me switch colors here. We'll go with a nice green so you can see it. You have food coming into the mouth like this. And almost immediately, you are going to encounter a type of digestion known as mechanical digestion. And what mechanical digestion is the physical breakdown of food. So your teeth, for example, are going to chew that food up. Your tongue is going to push it around, and that is the physical breakdown of food. Then, what you're going to encounter is a type of digestion known as chemical digestion. And it's going to start here with these things called the salivary glands. So you've all heard of saliva, spit. Spit includes some important digestive enzymes that help to break down food. One of the main ones that we're going to talk about today is a enzyme called amylase, which breaks starches down into disaccharides, specifically maltose. And so that is the beginning of taking a large molecule and breaking it down into a smaller one. After that food is chewed up, it becomes kind of a large lump of food that we refer to as a bolus. It's going to come down into the pharynx here, which is your throat, and then down this tube that's called the esophagus. And this is how we spell it. If you're American like me, in England you would start it with an O, oesophagus, but both of those are correct. What's interesting about the esophagus is that it is elastic, so it kind of stretches around that food, but the way that food passes through this esophagus isn't because of gravity. Otherwise, astronauts wouldn't be able to eat in space, for example. There are these muscle contractions that occur along the esophagus and actually all throughout the digestive system, throughout the digestive tract, that help to push that food along. The muscles are kind of ringed layers around your digestive tract that push it along in these wave-like subconscious pulses. And those pulses are known as peristalsis. If you, for example, eat some food that is not agreeing with you, if it gets to your stomach and the body rejects it immediately, what can happen is that peristalsis can reverse, and that is what forces food up when you vomit. On the opposite side of the stomach, if you eat something that disagrees with you, it can push it very, very quickly out the other direction, and that would be diarrhea. So, we mentioned the stomach as part of the digestive process. Here's your stomach. I'm sure often when you think of where your stomach is, a lot of people think it's where your intestines are, but it's actually a lot higher, and it's off to the left a little bit. Your stomach is important because it does both of these mechanical and chemical digestion techniques. For mechanical digestion, drop my pen here. Mechanical digestion, it churns. If you've ever been hungry and you felt your stomach rumble, that's the churning of the stomach. It also is going to be important for chemical digestion. Everybody knows about stomach acid. Well, that stomach acid is hydrochloric acid, HCl. It's one of the things that helps food digest in there. The other is a series of enzymes. The one that we're going to focus on today is pepsin. And if you watched our video on proteins, you would see that proteins are held together by peptide bonds. So this is going to act on proteins. You're going to take proteins and break them down into smaller polypeptides, and then even down into amino acids that can be digested. So after the stomach, there is a section of the small intestine that is called the duodenum. And you'll see here there's actually several parts of your small intestine: the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. And the duodenum is kind of this section right here, just at the base of the stomach. And this is actually a really important region because you have these things known as accessory parts of your digestive system, accessory organs. One of them that we're going to talk about here is your gallbladder. You also have your liver here. This is your giant liver. And together, your liver and your gallbladder create bile, which helps to neutralize the food that's coming out of your stomach. It's just been in this acid here, so now it's neutralizing it. And there's also this organ here known as your pancreas, which is not well highlighted, but it kind of comes at the base of the stomach like this. And your pancreas makes a lot of digestive enzymes that are then injected, that kind of spurt into the duodenum. And the big one that we're going to focus on here is a type of enzyme called lipase. And again, you should recognize this name from the macromolecules videos. Lipase breaks down lipids into its monomer components. So it breaks it down into glycerol and fatty acids. So here is a review of all of those digestive enzymes. You have salivary amylase from your salivary glands that breaks starch into maltose. You have pepsin in your stomach that breaks protein into polypeptides and then down into amino acids. And then you have lipases, which break lipids into glycerols and fatty acids. And those are all forms of chemical digestion. So that was part 2. That was step 2 of the digestive system. And again, we have our 2 types of digestion, mechanical and chemical. Our third stage of digestion is known as absorption. And absorption is going to happen in both the ileum, which is a section of the small intestine, and in the large intestine, the colon. So if you take a look at the small intestine, I know we're zooming back and forth quite a lot here. I'm going to delete these so that we can see a little bit better. Wow, that took a lot. Okay, so we have our clean slate here. So if you were to look at our small intestine, which is this very, very long organ here, if you laid it out, it would be about 5 meters long. It is very long because it is for absorption, and the key to absorption is having a lot of surface area. So, for example, if you had 5 liters of water that you needed to evaporate very quickly, it would work better to put it in a large cookie sheet and have more surface exposed to the air than if you had a pan that was very narrow but very deep. Surface area helps to increase absorption. So another trick here is that it's lined with these finger-like projections known as villi. And if you look at this, at the tube of the small intestine, it's lined with these finger-like projections called villi. And what these villi do is they absorb those digested nutrients, those simplified, broken down nutrients, and they absorb them right into the bloodstream. So let's say that you had a glucose molecule right here. This is my glucose molecule. Glucose. Well, what can happen as it comes through the digestive system this way is it's going to come in contact with one of these villi, and a single is called a villus, and as it comes into contact with it, it can actually diffuse right across this membrane here. These are epithelial cells, just like skin cells, and they can go into the bloodstream. And you will see when we get to the circulatory system that nutrients are one of the things that are carried by the blood. That's why you often hear about blood sugar, glycogen. And as it passes through the bloodstream, it eventually gets delivered at your cells, which absorb it, which take it in, and that is assimilation. So with assimilation, you need your circulatory system and you need your body cells. It is very important, yay, but we're not going to talk about it in this video. In addition to the nutrients being absorbed in the ileum, the small intestine, I want to look at the large intestine here. So back to this diagram. At the base of your small intestine, so we came through the stomach into the duodenum, we passed under this funny looking thing, and then we came into the small intestine and looped around and got all of our nutrients absorbed. We are then arriving at this organ here. And this organ is your large intestine. It is shorter than your small intestine, but it is wider, so we call it the large intestine. At the base of it, you have your appendix, which sometimes can become infected, and you can have appendicitis, and it can be removed. But it does have a vestigial. It's a vestigial feature, but it does have a function in that it holds bacteria for whenever your digestive system gets flushed out when you're sick. And your large intestine is the rest of your digestive system here. And its function is to absorb water. So at that point, your food waste has fewer nutrients that have been absorbed, but it still is fairly wet. And the water gets absorbed into your large intestine there. At the base of your large intestine, you have your rectum and your anus. And that is going to be important for the last step of the digestive system, which is egestion, which is the opposite of ingestion. It's kind of when you have things exiting, if you will. And so at this point, we've broken down all of that food. We've gotten all of the good stuff out of it. And what's left is waste. And this specific type of waste is known as feces. And if you're British, you also spell that with an A. So you have waste that collects in the rectum. It is expelled out of the anus. And all of the rest of the story has to do with that step with assimilation. And we're going to talk about that more when we get to the circulatory system. So stay tuned.